This is what we're doing with this, we're offloading the guild.
Hi, good evening, welcome. We'll get started now. We'll start with a few introductions. My name is Nicole Terrio. I'm one of the lead pre-K teachers here in the Early Learning Center and also the program coordinator for the ELC. This is my 5th year at PBS. I've been teaching for about 15 years, mostly at the early childhood level, but up through 2nd grade. A lot of that on the East Coast, Boston, New York, DC. That's me.
Hi, I'm Lauren Stronzak. I am also a lead pre-K teacher. I've been teaching for 7 years. This is my 3rd year at PBS, and previously I have taught in Chicago and abroad in Korea.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Hall-Coaster, and I am the lead preschool teacher. And this is my 5th year at PBS. Before PBS, I taught in various independent schools throughout the Bay Area. And this is about my 20th year of teaching, mostly early learning, but also up to 3rd grade.
I'm Zach Oldenburg, Mr. O. This is my 4th year at PBS, 10th year teaching. I spent 5 years up in Davis in the special education department there, working at high school, middle school, and elementary, but I found my home working with the little guys here.
So this evening, we'll just go through a little bit about our program, sort of our philosophy, our pedagogy, what we believe about young children and our role in working with them, and then talk a little bit about a typical day in the ELC. So we always like to start with our image of the child because that drives everything that we do here on a daily basis. So our program is in part Reggio inspired, which is an Italian philosophy, Italian approach to early childhood education. And sort of the really important things about that are how we view children, how closely we listen to them and pay attention to what they're thinking and saying and doing, how we document that process, and our role as teachers in that. So we're going to go through those different aspects right now. So what we believe about young children is that they are curious and competent and have all the tools within themselves that they need to be learners. They don't come to us as empty vessels that we fill up. They come to us with everything that they need already, and it's our goal to just sort of guide them and facilitate them through the learning process. We trust that they can use materials in ways that serve them in the learning process. We trust them to use real tools like saws, like cooking materials, like sewing materials. And we believe that they learn through real hands-on experiences, that all the things that happen throughout our day here are learning experiences. So whether they're outside working on some scientific exploration with pipes and water and how those materials work, whether they're acting out a dramatic play scenario, imitating the real life that they experience every day. Here these children are playing school, pretending to read to one another. And we believe that they learn from each other, that relationships are at the heart of learning, the relationship that we have with the children, but also the relationships that they have with each other, that they learn from each other, from a peer who might be a little bit ahead of where they are, or a peer who thinks a little bit differently than they do, that through working together, collaborating, they're inspired by what other children are doing. They want to try to replicate what other children are doing. They get ideas from what other children are doing. And our day is set up to help them have these experiences.
So I'm going to speak a little bit about the role of the teacher. As Nicole mentioned earlier, our relationship with the children is very important. And similarly to the peer-to-peer relationships, we also, our role is that of model, of guides. We guide the children through their day, and observers. We carefully observe everything that they do, and through that observation we think of interesting provocations. For example, Play-Doh or, and there's a perfect example of a teacher with close relationships with students reading a book. We also like to inspire creativity through watching what the children are interested in and skill acquisition. So everything that we do is thought out and through observation of what the children are doing. We also see ourselves as co-learners with the students so that we co-create and construct curriculum with the students. So if a child wants to learn about something, we may also learn that same thing along with the children if they have a question. Our next thing is about documentation. So as you will look around the classroom, you will see some documentation on the wall. And why do we document? So that we can reflect upon our work with the children can reflect on their work, and so we can also gauge their progress. So the different kinds of documentations that we have here are on the walls, obviously their artwork, and you'll see pictures of what they're doing as well. We also have a daily blog, or almost daily blog, where we share some of the day's events and things that they've been doing, mostly with pictures, so the children can reflect as well, along with the parents. And also through the children's words, we have conversations about the things that we did or something that they did at home. So those are other ways that we document and share their experience. And here are the portfolios that each child has, and that's our way of gauging their progress. And they love looking through them. They also can see their own progress. They can see how they've changed. They see who they've been playing with, what they've been playing with, and they enjoy looking through those as well. And they like to share with their parents, and they get to take it home at the end of the year.
It's mostly photographs of the children at work as well as samples of their artwork, or there might also be conversations in there that we've taken down what they've said and put them in their portfolios.
Our environment is built towards our view of the image of the child and the role of the teacher. Accessibility, curiosity, and discovery are all facilitated by the way we set up our environment. Everything is, as these guys have figured out, is built for the child. Everything's lower, so it's accessible to them. It allows them to make their own choice. We'll usually have 4 to 5 provocations set up in each classroom, all touching on different sorts of things as well. Every classroom will always have kind of a writing center, drawing center, but we'll have different kind of manipulative activities, different kind of sensory activities. We do a lot of cardboard construction, especially in the pre-K, preschool does a lot as well. But it allows whatever type of learner they are to have a different kind of experience, and it's also their choice. We're not telling them, here, we're going to do this today. Sometimes the kids come in on Monday where we've reset the provocations and they're like, what's this? It's a whole new discovery for them. And then we're not necessarily also telling them, this is how you do this. We let them figure it out, and they come up with ways to use the materials in ways that we never thought, and then we'll also get down in there with them and build cardboard walkie-talkies and spaceships and who knows what else. We also try to make it as appeasing to them as possible. We use the rainbow a lot, you'll notice. Things get organized that way in here. And we also try to, when they come in, so it's not just some pile of Play-Doh, we'll try to create a little bit of an effect, or if it's a new provocation, we'll build some of the blocks up just a little bit so they kind of get an idea of where to go, but then they hit the ground running after that.
So what does a day in the ELC look like? Upon arrival, the children have their own morning responsibilities, such as signing in, unpacking their backpack, and washing hands. And once they've completed those responsibilities, they then are free to explore the classroom and engage in provocations. And at PBS, and well, throughout all of the grades, and in the ELC, we practice responsive classroom. And part of that is our morning meeting, where children and teachers come together and sit on the carpet in a circle, and they engage in purposeful conversations and greet each other by name and share important events that are happening in their lives. And they also read a morning message, which is crafted by their teacher to help them preview their day and see who they will be seeing and what they will be doing for that particular day. It really helps set the children up for success for that day. Indoor exploration is part of our day, and that is where children sort of move throughout the room and engage in provocations like Zach and Nicole were saying that we put out, and they're usually sensory activities or drawing and writing. A lot of children like to engage in dramatic play and block building, and we also have other activities like cooking. And throughout all of this play, it's really important to note that there's a lot of foundational literacy and math skills that children are learning. And then we proceed to outdoor exploration. Yeah, there's a cooking picture from our Friendsgiving where we all come together as an ELC and share a meal with one another. And so we see our outdoor area as really an extension of the classroom where children continue to build those social connections with one another and learn cognitive skills. And a lot of the children enjoy, as you can see, playing in the sand or with water play and gross motor activities such as parachute play. They engage in dramatic play in the house that's outside, and we venture out twice a week in pre-K to our big toy playground, which is right here. And they also do scooter boards, which is a fun activity for them. And then snack and lunch are times for children to learn self-help skills, such as opening their own containers, cleaning up after themselves, really getting sort of jobs and responsibilities, and really building those social connections with one another. And we provide snack in the morning for all grades, or for all classes, and then in the afternoon for pre-K students. However, lunch is not provided, so parents are responsible for that. And then after lunch, we come inside for rest, and it's just kind of a time for children to relax, reset, and rest if they want to.
So one of my favorite things about working here in the ELC is the project work that we do, and that is sort of where all of these other parts of the day and our role and what the children are doing sort of come together in this really beautiful learning sort of path often. So because we are paying really close attention to what the kids are doing with the different materials, what's happening in their play, what we think they're trying to figure out, we use that to sort of guide them into projects. And so these three images are from a project that happened in my classroom a few years ago, which we dubbed the door investigation. And it really came from a small moment. We go in and out of the classroom all day long, opening the door, closing the door, and one child observed that what she thought was the door was heavier from one side than the other. So when she came from the outside in, the door felt heavier to her than when she exited the classroom. And so we brought that question to the children. You know, why is the door heavier from one side to the other? And we want to know what they're thinking. And we really want to honor and validate what they think and what they believe, and go with their theories and test out their theories and have them talk to each other about their theories and try to provide experiences where they can figure out what's going on. So we've had lots of class discussions. We went to explore all the different doors around campus. We explored different hardware, different kinds of handles. The children, we encourage them to document what they're thinking and observing. So you'll often see kids with clipboards, pencils, either drawing what they're seeing or somehow collecting data from these different projects. So this was a month-long investigation where each child drew a different door on campus, experimented with how it opened and closed, and where the project led to was the children decided that a push bar handle, like in that far picture, was easier than the door handles we have here in the ELC. And we ended up creating a video to send to Dr. Erickson in which the children explained what they had figured out and requested that Dr. Erickson put new door handles in the ELC. We're still waiting on those. But we really try to use the campus as a resource for these projects. That's one of the great things about being an early learning center that's attached to a K-5 school, is that we have so many more resources available to us. So whether that's using the expertise of our librarian to pull some books for us on a particular topic that we can share with the children, whether it's using some of the other adults on campus, going to Dr. Erickson's office and asking him about something, or whether it's using the other children on campus. There have been several projects in recent years where we've surveyed all of the children in the upper grades about something, whether it's what letter their name started with, or Lauren's class did a project this fall trying to figure out which month had the most birthdays across the school. And so her kids in small groups went to all the different classes and asked kids to record what month their birthday was in, and then they used Unifix cubes to track how many birthdays were in each month, and eventually figured out what the most popular month was, which was
March.
So, and it's a time, as with the free exploration, when we're really weaving in a lot of skills. Kids are drawing, they're trying to write, to record what they're learning. Sometimes if it's relevant, here Anna is doing a graph. That was one way to capture and show our data. They're counting, they're dealing with letters, they're all of the things that we want them to be thinking about and working on happen in a really integrated way in these projects.
The specialist at the school, you may or may not know, we have an A, B, C, D, E, F rotation here. We don't go through Monday through Friday. So each rotation, we get every specialist on the campus comes and visits us, except science. They're more an outside advisor. So if there's a project that we could use the science help, they might come over and help us out with that. But they don't come in regularly as for an actual science class. We do plenty of science exploration on our own in here. But the PE, our students get to go twice a rotation. They get to do the PE with the coaches. And that is an experience that also takes them outside of our space. The coaches will take them down to our sport court or the NPR if it's raining. And so that's another opportunity for them to explore the campus before they move up to it next year. 2 years if they're in preschool. But Spanish, emotional intelligence, art is coming once every 3 weeks. She's visiting once. She rotates the class per rotation. And as you can see there, Miss A is doing a small little clay experiment with them. PE, get more parachute play and the small motor stuff, large motor stuff. I did mention Miss Noth, but the kids obviously love when Miss Noth comes in and reads to the students. The specialists are great visitors to have up here. And did I mention Spanish?
Yes.
And they
Okay.
also help out at lunch.
Oh yes, yeah. So they also visit at lunchtime. So when they transition up to the big school, they've met every single specialist and a lot of front office staff even. So they have friendly faces when they get up there to help with the transition from that to that new space. And then this is about you guys if you come here. Parent volunteers, it can be coming in and singing, it can coming in and just hanging out with the class. You can be like another teacher, exploring with them at the various provocations that we have set up around the room. The cooking experiences are often led by parents as well. A lot of parents like to come in and celebrate cultural holidays and teach the students about those, the things that they're celebrating throughout the year. We're also open to new ideas. If you guys ever come up with anything, let us know and we'll
We
try.
highly encourage costumes.
Yes, yeah.
So that's all that we have to say. So we have about 15 minutes now when we can answer your questions before we direct you on to the next part of the evening, which is food and Dr. Erickson down in the MTR. So we're going to open it up to questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure I totally understood that rotation
Mhm.
thing. Could you explain
Yeah,
that?
sure. So, our own little thing. So in this classroom on A and D days, which
How frequent are you?
So
it's every 6 days,
Oh, I see.
but
So
Friday
instead of
doesn't
going
count.
Monday through Friday, the beginning of the year, let's say the beginning of the year starts on a Monday, that's an A day. And then we go A, B, C, D, E, F, and then it starts A again.
Fridays are not part of that
Yeah.
rotation,
Yeah.
so it's a little bit confusing. It's confusing for us. We have to look at the calendar a lot to figure out what day it is, but it helps with the specialists so that they can get in all the rotations and everybody gets an equal amount.
Never miss out on. So like
So it's roughly over like 3 to, or it's every 6 days.
over 2 weeks you should see every specialist. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it avoids, a number of schools have gone this model. It avoids the teacher who you see on Monday always, missing because that's when holidays tend to fall. Or the Friday teacher always gets kids at the end of the week when they're exhausted. So because it rotates, different teachers are seeing kids at different days during the week and you're not missing. So it seems confusing at first. Kids usually pick up on it
That's what I was just
much
gonna
more
say.
quickly than adults.
We just ask them who's
Yeah.
coming on C day, and they know everybody. Else.
Yeah.
You don't have to know; they'll keep track of it for you. Yeah.
How much do the two pre-K classes interact or overlap, or what does that look like?
Quite a bit. So the ELC transitioned to having two pre-K classes about 4 years ago. So we've tried a few things in those 4 years, and what we've sort of settled on is that in the mornings, they're generally separate, and then they combine in the afternoons.
Sorry, how big is each class?
So each class has 15 students. So there are 15 in the preschool, and then there are 2 classes of 15 pre-K.
There's a question over there.
And when do you start letter/alphabet recognition, and when do you expect them to know the full alphabet and numbers and things like that?
So I could try to answer that question for you. It starts at birth actually, because children are constantly learning all the time. So, but what we have in our classroom is integrated. So we don't have a set plan of A is for apple, B is for banana. It's integrated like through the projects, through, and early literacy really begins with speaking and talking and listening and reading and vocabulary. So we want to build a foundation, but they are exposed to letters, their names.
Names is frequently where children start
That's
their
where they
letter
start.
recognition.
Right.
That's something that's really important for
Right.
them, and so that's meaningful. And all that we do, meaning is the most motivating sort of teacher. So when kids are doing meaningful work, that's when they're picking up. So when they're signing their name on something, that motivates them to be able to figure out how to write their name. If we ask them to put a sign up in the block area on their building, that's motivating for them, right? Because it's something that they've created that then they want to name or put a sign on that protect it from being knocked over. So we want sort of real reasons for them to be using language and literacy.
Yeah, kindergarten is where a more structured environment for that comes into play, but many of our students have made a lot of progress in that arena by the time they hit the kindergarten.
A lot of them do read and
Yeah.
write already. I mean,
Yeah.
they can write their names by a lot of them, but I mean, everybody learns at a different time, so it's not, it really does start in kindergarten, and we don't expect everybody to do the same thing at the same time.
Do there and then there.
You're first.
You're first.
Oh,
You.
how do you customize and personalize the learning experience for each child?
Well, if someone shows interest in a provocation, our job as the teachers to run with that, and they'll often lead us down different paths, and then the teachers will go to either our library, we'll reach out, like I said, to the science, we'll use our resources to kind of focus on what they are interested in, and then, but as we move around the classroom, the student is already, we can support their individual growth, but they have such an ability to take control of their own learning here. We're just a guide for that process. Like, they have a lot of opportunity to get that personal experience here because we're not doing A for Apple for 30 minutes throughout the day. They're driving what they're interested in and what they want to be doing throughout the day.
And so I'm just follow up. So I'm hearing that you're focusing on their strength. How do you encourage them to deal with the weaknesses or the developmental areas?
So there's areas of growth. So we do notice where those areas of growth are, and we build a plan on those areas of growth. But yes, we do work with their strengths because we want the children to have as positive an experience as possible. The main goal really is to love school, to come to school excited, to have really strong relationships with the teachers and the students, and through those relationships learn. But yes, we do recognize that children have areas of growth, and we like to challenge them just a little bit, just where we notice that, but not so much where they get frustrated. So we do work on those areas with the children.
The PBS too is also, we're a social emotional centered school, and this is where a lot of that work happens, and that's where we're working. That's where they need a lot of the work, the growth area. I think that's where we actually help make a lot of the growth progress, is solving tension problems with a friend who won't share the thing, something that happens on the playground. That's our big learning experience here, and I know that that's why I love this school, is that experience with this age group is so vital and so important, and we're finding more and more with data that that's what they need to be doing right now, and we give that to them fully here.
Yeah, can you guys talk a little bit about what kind of exposure they get to the older kids, and then what experiences or I guess skills we kind of hope or desire that they gain from that exposure?
So as I was saying before, that's a great thing about being on this campus, is that they are exposed to the older kids. Our pre-K classes have 4th grade buddies, and that's a really important relationship for our pre-K kids. So once a rotation, they meet with their buddies, and at the beginning of the year, we pair them up in a way that we think will be good both for the 4th grader and for our pre-K student, and that's a really nice connection that happens through the year. And the kids, it helps them become comfortable with the big kids. They know there's a friendly face on campus. When someone's walking by, they're able to say hello to them. So for our holiday concert, we live stream the concert, so that mostly for parents who can't be there, but we also project it here in the ELC. And this year there were several pre-Kers who, once they saw their buddies on screen, were like enthusiastically waving and like
clapping for them.
super excited to see their 4th grade buddies up there. So that's a really tight relationship that our pre-K kids have with the older kids. But then they also just see them around campus.
We get plenty of students that will walk the fence line out there, meeting every single person that comes by, and they'll know every single teacher and kid. That 4th grade buddy relationship also usually carries on into Family Fridays, which is another big PBS staple. That's part of why the rotation is the way it is as well. It allows them to have these family experiences where kids from all grade levels, K to 5, they get together during the morning after gathering and have their own they have various events throughout the year, and we do our best to make sure that their 4th grade buddy is their buddy there. And then I really feel like the 5th graders take on their kindergartners to kind of teach them this is the Family Friday experience, and they really take them under their wing, and they've been their buddy for a year, so that's another helpful transition for them as they move up to the upper grades.
Another thing that we do on Fridays within the ELC is every Friday, they have a big gather. We have our own small gather where we're singing songs all together. So the preschool gets to come in, and so they interact with the pre-K every Friday.
And then, as I said before, when we can with our projects, if it makes sense, if we can use the older kids as a resource, we do that. Usually in a small group format, usually bringing a small group of pre-Kers to an upper grade to ask them questions about something, interview them for something. And then the upper grade teachers use us too if they want to send a small group of older kids to come, practice a presentation or read the books that they're about to publish to to our kids. So it goes both ways.
I'm curious. I think in this age group, the cooperation is the main concept we want to teach them. But how about competition? I guess in the area like this, will we teach them what is competitive behavior or what is competition between each other? I was wondering how do you do this to kids?
Is it?
The competition naturally happens, obviously. We're not out there like, yeah, you're gonna, we're not pushing the competitive angle, but we also acknowledge that like competition's gonna happen sometimes, but we'll talk to them about, does it matter, we're just running, they're younger than you, like you're faster than a preschooler, but maybe they're gonna be, we talk about how everyone is a little bit different and that's okay and that can make one person better at one thing than the other, but we're not going to say, you can't avoid that happening sometimes, but we're not driving the kids to compete against each other. We allow them to kind of explore at their own pace and do their own thing.
And I think it's about helping children deal with the different feelings around both competition and collaboration. If you're trying to work with someone and they have a different idea than you do and you really feel strongly about your idea, how do you deal with that frustration? If you're playing a game and suddenly you get sent back to the beginning because of the card you picked, how do you deal with those feelings you have? How do you deal with your best friend now being about to win? So it's about recognizing those feelings, labeling them, and then helping them strategize. How do you deal with those feelings that are coming up when those different scenarios are happening?
We mentioned the emotional intelligence Ms. Rayoc does come in here, and she gives us some guiding principles for that, but like we also said, that's what we're dealing with these guys every day, is navigating those conflicts and those hardships that pop up that seem like the end of the world for a minute, and then we work our way through it, and we're playing something else, so yeah.
How often do you have parent volunteers in the classroom?
Guys could come all the
As
time if
often
you
as
wanted to.
you wanna
Yeah. It's just we have
Sign-ups.
room parents for each classroom, and they facilitate the parents signing up for activities, and we put in some blocks available. But if you're willing to come, we'll gladly take you.
We'll take you.
Come on in.
Yes.
Just back to my
You
Go
bet.
ahead. You.
Okay.
Yeah,
You
help.
talked
Yeah,
about indoor and outdoor play. I was wondering if that's all structured or if there's a time of day where the kids get to decide maybe some of the class wants to stay in, some of the class wants to go out. Do they do everything as a group or are they allowed to kind of split up and explore?
So in preschool, actually, we have like an outdoor porch, and so it is indoor, outdoor. They can choose whether they want to be out on the porch or in the sandbox. Also, on rainy days and other days, there are times when the children can choose if they want to play outside or play inside. But most of the outdoor play is, everybody goes outside most of
And
the time.
that is more determined by our space and our numbers than our philosophy.
Right.
So in preschool, because they have the patio and we're able to do more of that indoor, outdoor, we do.
There's the sandbox. We didn't mention there's a sandbox as well that is available to the kids that allows
Yeah,
them some
so,
of the
right.
gross motor activity. Yeah.
But for the larger play area, it's a little more structured just because of the way the logistics need to work.
But people are they're making their own choices out there. It's not like, hey, line up on the line, we're gonna run sprints, or they're making their own choices and creating their own games, and dramatic play blends out there. Kids play soccer, basketball.
And on our pre-K patio, there are always art activities happening or things that
Sensory
might be more indoor activities are happening outside.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Just a question, you mentioned like whether it's reading or mathematical literacy sort of comes organically from what they're playing with or doing. To what extent is there a facilitation of, well, here's a guiding principle or core principle I want to make sure the child learns, or is it sort of manifested from what they're working on and then you look to reinforce it? Like, how does that organically happen?
The latter. I mean, it's what they're interested in. We have some kids who want to play dramatic play the whole time, and while that might not look like literacy, they're using language and developing new vocabulary as they play with their friends. And
we're sort of formulating, a storyline and roles and characters and conflict and how to sort of resolve that conflict.
We also have a lot of drawing and writing, and as Nicole mentioned, peers do learn from each other. So if you have a student that's writing their name, a lot of times they'll all sit around in a group and that student will teach the other child letters or numbers. They are motivated by each other. They're motivated by what they see us do. They're motivated by the words on the walls. We have bookmaking, so we have blank books and they can draw pictures. Sometimes they'll dictate the words that they want, so it's like kind of sequential storytelling. We read a lot. Reading a lot is really important. Building that vocabulary is very important. The meaning of vocabulary, that is the foundation. Because if you're gonna just learn letters, numbers, letters, and there's no meaning behind it, it's you have to relearn it again. So that's how it organically happens, and it really does. I mean, you can walk into the classroom from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, and you will see big changes.
But then I would say that we, sort of as early childhood experts, have a little bit of a Rolodex in our head of what do we want kids to be learning? What are our goals? Where do we generally expect them to be in terms of their knowledge by the time they leave here? And where can we sort of push that a little bit organically in their play, in their work? For example, children should have a pretty good concept of adding and subtracting and sort of numbers up through 5 by the time they're 4 or 5. So every day we talk about, there's a sort of a snack report. So we have, pretzels and fruit and a cheese stick, and one of the children tells them how many of each they can have, and then we have them show on their fingers how many things we have for snack today. Can you show me in a different way? So there are goals that we have that we're thinking about and sort of weaving in and pushing kids to do. If they're playing a game and they need to count how many spaces there are, we might be supporting them in that. So there are ways that we're trying to encourage them, but building on what they're already doing.
That's the facilitation part where we're watching and guiding, and I mean, that's the part that I forgot. You were talking about the growth area. So yeah, if children are putting candles on the birthday cakes, they'll almost be like, oh, how old are you, or how old am I on my birthday cake? So that's how we do kind of push a little bit so that they're thinking about those things.
So I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I think we need to encourage you to head to the next portion of the evening. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the project, like those doll project, they're older kids, right?
That was the pre-K class, but all grade level, preschool does their own projects as well.
So the pre-K student, they already know to do the projects, like the doll projects?
Yeah, so that, like I said, that came from a question that a child asked that we then brought to the group, had a conversation about it, and then we're working off what the children are thinking about and wondering about, what they're curious about, what their questions are.
Yeah, because I learned from like the other places say pre-K kids, they usually just doing the parallel praying. They don't collaborate that much. And but it is like here in the pre-K level, they already group together doing a project themselves already.
It depends on the child. I mean,
group.
as a project goes on, some kids might not be as interested anymore, while some are still driving forward, and then that group that is driving forward makes a breakthrough, might bring around some other kids as it goes. Again, that choice and allowing them to choose to kind of participate. A lot of stuff does happen at a group meeting when we do something like that, but again, some kids will drive it while others will kind of fall back on it.
My question is similar to hers.
Oh, so should we?
So
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
yeah, so I was about to ask, for preschoolers, they sometimes tend to do things by themselves, individually. How do you encourage them to collaborate with each other?
With the preschool?
Work together, yeah.
So we do because of the dramatic play, a lot of times the children that are, this is they'll be playing by themselves, and then maybe something will be happening in the classroom, and they'll want to move in and join in. And we introduce a lot of how to enter play and asking questions like, may I play? And one of the rules at the school is everyone can play. So we do introduce those skills at a group level. We also have our morning meetings, so we get to know each other. And naturally, eventually, the children do kind of draw towards each other, but we do encourage that they, if we see someone spending a lot of time by themselves and that they look like they are wandering around not sure what to do, you know, we'll try to introduce them to a group. But sometimes
Stephanie does a lot of modeling with either puppets or little figurines where she'll act out a scenario and model for the children how they could work together on something. And they often take that really, really to heart, and then you see them using the strategies that she's shown them.
they practice it out there on the playground or in exploration.
Okay, so now.
I was wondering how you recognize birthdays.
So for birthdays, we invite families to come in. At the pre-K level, we invite them to come in and read a book. We want birthdays to be a special thing for children, but we also don't want them to be an overwhelming experience for children either. So we want to do something that's special, but also not over the top.
Do you have any restrictions as far as snacks or things
Yeah,
like that?
we don't do food-based celebrations. Starting in kindergarten, they do a school-wide, once a month birthday celebration that does involve like pureed fruit pops, but we don't do that.
Volunteer and make some banana muffins. We'll go around
Yeah.
it. But maybe work around the system. We had one more question.
Yeah, it was over there.
Yeah.
No, it's
So-
back.
What?
It was
What?
over
Was it
there.
Oh, sorry. Two more questions.
One, I mean, how
We got time.
how often are the four of you interacting, just trying to get some thoughts on what's it like from a teacher's perspective that makes it, you've all worked together for a long time, what
Yeah.
does that look like? How does
I
that work?
am in all 3 classrooms every single day, so I get to know all 45 kids and work with them all the time.
Got it.
We have a Wednesday after meeting every week. We meet and collaborate, and we talk about things we can make better. We vent a little bit if we need to. We tell funny stories. It's a great, I mean, being a group where everybody here, 6 of the 7 of us have been together for 3 years,
Yeah.
I think now. So we got a great little crew. And then there's also team planning times throughout the week where people get to sit down and kind of focus on planning out their next week as well.
Yeah, and then a few times during the year, sprinkled throughout the year, we have some longer chunks of time to work together. But there are sort of those formal times, and then I would say nearly every day
Yeah,
after
after
free
school,
day,
yeah.
we all end up in this room.
You must
Um,
like each other.
Yes, we do.
We do like each other.
We have a good time together. We laugh together. You know, when you're dealing with the sometimes crazy antics of 3, 4, and 5-year-olds, you have to have
We've
a
got
good
stories.
sense of humor about it. So yeah, like Zach said, we tell funny stories. Maybe try to problem solve things really on a daily basis.
All right, I'm not gonna say who the last.
All right, we'll do the last one
Okay.
and then Kurt, you.
Children are really great at making friendships, right? From what I've seen so far, the little experience that I have, I've seen like they have learning buddies and social buddies, like, you know, learning pairs where they really actually learn better when they're together, and social buddies where they're like more imitation, more noise, like more fun. How do you handle this pairs? Do you see such things in your classroom? Do you happen to like move them into different classrooms? What is your thoughts on that?
They get, again, there's a lot of freedom in our classroom that allows them to navigate that on their own. We don't have to do much facilitate, as they get older, playing with more people becomes a lot easier for them. If, again, we're helping, if there's a tricky situation, we'll help patch up those situations, but they're really great at working together at the writing table, but then someone might see the dramatic play game going on and be like, hey, I'm gonna go play with those guys, you know, and usually feelings aren't hurt over that, it's just move right along, and yeah, they get the social side, and maybe, hey, we're all writing together, and they might be working, say they're writing with someone who's more developmentally along with them, they might be pushing each other a little bit because they're both kind of like touching on our competition friend who's not here a little bit, but in a good, healthy way. Like they're like, oh yeah, I want to write that letter too. Miss Alcoster in our gather the other day presented some books that the preschoolers had done, and right after gather, like half of this class was over there like making their own book. Like, yeah, we got to make our own story too. So yeah, it's very organic here, which is what we're built for. So.
But like you said, there are times when children's energy might sort of combine in a way that is challenging, and so there are different things we can do in the classroom to try to help change that energy. And group dynamics are different with every group, every year, sometimes every day. It feels like, but we're paying attention to those things, and if energy with a certain group is getting to what feels like an unmanageable level, maybe we're pulling out a sensory material that is really calming and will help them sort of like channel that energy into like rolling out the clay and needing to use a lot of muscles to sort of do that. So, we're paying attention to those things. And while we have a plan in mind and certain things set up, we're flexible to when we need to meet. So next on your agenda this evening is dinner and talk by Dr. Erickson, which is in the NPR, which is the large lighted building.